ألف لام را كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور بإذن ربهم إلى صراط العزيز الحميد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. What you just heard is what is known as khutbatul hajah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he gave the khutbah for Friday or the khutbah of the Eid, if he did a nikah, if he wanted to give the people a talk or a discussion, anytime he wanted to do any of that, he mentioned this, what we just mentioned to you, khutbat al-hajah. And he used to teach khutbat al-hajah to his companions, sallallahu alayhi wasallam wa radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, with the same emphasis that he used to teach them the Quran. So that's how important it is. And in following the sunnah to the best of our ability is najat. Concerning the topic that the brothers requested for me to deliver concerning trials and tribulations, it's a big topic. It has been mentioned in the Quran and many ayat. And in a practical way, we see the trials and tribulations of many of the anbiya and the rasul and the salihin of the Quran, salawatullahi wassalamu alayhim ajma'een. First thing that we want to mention, ikhwani, in this masjid of al-hadith, I see a lot of young people here, is that anytime you see in al-Islam that the ulama of al-Islam in the past and in the present, you find that they paid attention to a particular issue, then know that the issue is important. We as Muslims, this ummah, we have to be the people who are following the ulama of al-Islam. And that's because none of us are scholars. But in following the ulama, that means we respect them, we honor them, we understand our religion based upon what they are helping us to understand. But we do not blindly follow anybody. We do not look at anybody as being above the law. Any and everyone, if a person makes a statement and he takes a position, he has to bring the proof, no matter who he is. So in this regard, the scholars of Islam, they dealt with this issue in that they wrote many books about trials and tribulations. As soon as you see that, you know that it's an important issue. Again, and that's because the ulama of al-Islam, they are in the front in our ummah. Allah mentioned in the Quran, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِ الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are they equal, those who know and those who don't know? People who know are not like the people who don't know. And the ulama of this ummah are the ones who understand. Now I hope and I'm really going to try to give you this example because I want this point to be understood, especially by you young brothers. Because in the cultural Islam, where we grow up and it's just a culture, we're taught we just have to listen to what the person says because he's the imam or because he's an elder. And that's not the case. We have to listen to people when what they say and what they do is supported by proofs. And if it's not supported by proofs, no matter who he is, except the Prophet ﷺ, we reject his statement and we still respect that individual. The ulama, the ulama. The ulama, ikhwani, are similar to these lights that are on right now. Tonight, inshallah, after Salat al-Isha, if we were in this masjid, we turn those lights off and we can read the Quran because the light is shining. But if we turn the lights off, we won't be able to see each other and we won't be able to read the Quran, the kalam of Allah. So when we turn the lights on, the lights help us to read the Quran. The goal and the objective is the Quran, to read the Quran, follow the Quran, understand the Quran. The Quran is the goal and the objective, not the light. Not the light. Because the light may be strong at one time and it's weak at another time. Half of the light may be working now, the other half may not be working. The light can change just like that. Any human being can change, scholars, whatever. So the scholar is like the light. That light shines and it helps us to read and to understand. But the goal and the objective is not the light. The goal and the objective is the kalam of Allah Azza wa Jal. So our scholars, they wrote many books about trials and tribulations, like the great scholar of al-Islam, al-Imam Abu Amr Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Dani. Tremendous scholar of the Quran, tremendous scholar of the Sunnah. He died in 444. He wrote a nice famous book that's called As-Sunan Al-Warida Fil Fitan wa Ghawailiha. The ahadith that come to us concerning trials and tribulations, in which he just gathered the hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam about al-fitan. So if a person wants to get fiqh about fitna, knowledge about fitna, trials and tribulations, he can go into that issue, and he goes into that issue with clarity. He understands. Not khurafat, not shirk, not bid'ah, not hocus pocus stuff. Another scholar who I think most of us have heard is the great scholar and mufassir of the Quran, al-Imam ibn Kathir. Al-Imam ibn Kathir, he wrote a book called An-Nihaya, Kitab An-Nihaya, Fil Fitan wal Malahim, in which he talks about the same issue. If you look at the books of Al-Hadith, and again, this is Masjid of Al-Hadith. What's Al-Hadith? They asked Al-Imam Ahmed, who are Al-Hadith? Al-Imam Ahmed said, Al-Hadith are the people who work by the hadith. When the hadith comes to them, they take that hadith and they hold on to that hadith tenaciously with their molars. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa was from Ahlul Hadith because he told his students, if the hadith is authentic, then that's my madhab. He never intentionally went against any hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam. Ala kullin, if you look in the books of Al-Hadith, Sahih Bukhari, in that tremendous book, which is the most authentic book after the Quran, there was a chapter in there, Kitab al-Fitan. If you look in Abu Dawood, the Muhaddith, book of Hadith, Kitab al-Fitan. At-Tirmidhi, Kitab al-Fitan. And that's a sign and an indication that the scholars of Islam, they didn't leave any stone unturned. So you young brothers especially, as you're growing and you're developing, and you want to be practicing religious Muslims, and you want to be on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, and you want to be of the people that Allah is pleased with you. You don't want to be like kuffar. You want to practice your religion. I say to you, always remember, you have to have people of knowledge who are in front of you, who are guiding you. If you're guiding yourself, and people similar to you in your age and your lack of knowledge are guiding you, you're going to be in trouble. So we always have to respect those ulama, and we take that as a lesson. The first lesson of today is the scholars of Islam dealt with this issue in detail. It's just up to the Muslim now to come and learn his religion. What do you want to know about the fitna? The fitan, Allah mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah, in Surah At-Tawbah at the end of the surah. أَوَلَا يَرَوْنَ أَنَّهُمْ يُفْتَنُونَ فِي كُلِّ عَامٍ مَرَّةً أَوْ مَرَّتَيْنِ. Do the people not see that every single year we give them 1 or 2 big trials or tribulations? That's in the end of Surah At-Tawbah, the word fitna, trials and tribulations. That's an ayah of the Quran. The scholars have different interpretations. What does that mean? Some of them said the trial and tribulation that comes once or twice every year is someone dies. Someone who you know died. About a week and a half ago, we had one of our community members who walks to the masjid every day, 5 times a day. He was here today, gone tomorrow. How was he gone? Someone came and assaulted him and stabbed him. Some of the scholars said that's the meaning of the ayah. That you lose your auntie over there, you lose your baby over there, a cousin over there. Every year you're going to be tried, once or twice. That's an ayah of the Quran. The Nabi, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, in an authentic hadith, he explained, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانِ مُفَتَّنًا طَوَّابًا نَسِيًّا إِذَا ذُكِرَ ذَكَرَ. The human being has been created to be tried. In Surah Al-Dhariyat of the Quran, مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have created the mankind and the jinn only to worship me. This hadith said, the human being has been created to be tried. He's going to be tried. That's what he was created for. He's been created also an individual who is ready to make tawbah. He's also been created as an individual who, if he is reminded, he remembers, because he's going to forget. So that goes to show that Allah Azza wa Jalla created everybody here, and if you're trying to navigate and go through this hayat dunya to get to the Jannah, there are going to be trials and tribulations. You have to believe in that. You have to rest assured of that. There was a man who came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were going to make the jihad. They were traveling. The man said, Ya Rasulullah, I never had a headache. I have such good health that I never even got sick. I never had a headache. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you can't go with us on this journey. Because the fact that you never had a headache, you have to be tried at some point, and maybe your big trial and tribulation is going to come right now. Now also, if Allah Azza wa Jal loves the people, as he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ قَوْمًا ابْتَلَاهُمْ. If Allah loves a group of people, he puts them to trials and tribulations. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Mulk, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Blessed is Allah. The barakah is with Allah. Tabarakallah. Who in his hands is all of the dominion. Allah is responsible for everything. Every movement, every staying still, everything in creation he is in his authority. The ayah said, Allah created the life and he created the death so that he would try you people. He will put you to a test to see which of you are the best. So the point here, second point of our discussion here is everybody has to embrace and get his head around the concept and the idea you're going to be tried. The Prophet described the Jannah and he described the hellfire, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. And he said, حُفَّتِ الْجَنَّةِ بِالْمَكَارِهِ وَحُفَّتِ النَّارِ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ. The paradise has been surrounded by things that people don't like. You want to go to Jannah? You have to do things that you don't like waking up now 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:15, 4:30 to pray Salatul Fajr. Many people don't like that, so they're not going to get up. You want to go to Jannah? Those are the type of things that you have to do. Making wudu, and the water is really cold. The water is cold. It's not something that's nice. So the Nabi used to encourage people, used to give them the incentive to make the wudu. He used to tell them things. Whoever makes the wudu and the water is cold, you get this reward, that reward. He said the hellfire is surrounded by the desires. The hellfire is surrounded by the desires. Things that are easy to fall into. Things that it doesn't take a lot of effort for an individual to really do it. He just falls into it and that's it. So all of that is an indication, as we mentioned, that All of us, without exception. As you go through your life, you're going to have to deal with trials and you're going to have to deal with tribulations. In the famous ayat of the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, it's about ayat 155 or something like that, Allah Ta'ala established, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ فَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Another ayat. There are many ayats of the Quran that are repeated over and over in different ways to bring this point home. Verily, the ayat said, with emphasis, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. Verily, we're going to try you people. We're going to try you people by making you hungry. We're going to try you by making you afraid. We're going to try you. Allah is going to try you by causing a loss in your wealth, causing a loss in your life. People are going to die. And also by causing a loss in your thamarat, in your vegetation and so forth and so on. The ayah went on to say, tell those people, give them glad tidings, those people who, when the musibah hits them, the fitna, the trial, the tribulation, when it hits them, they understand, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That kalima, the brand spanking new Muslim, the very new Muslim, new out of Jahiliyyah into Islam, or the one who's a Muslim but he wasn't practicing and he comes to Islam. That's one of the du'as and one of the dhikrs that every Muslim should have on his tongue. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Those people who, when a musibah hits them, that's their word. So commonly what happens is, if we hear about the death of someone comes and tells us so-and-so died overseas or this or that happened, that's what the Muslims say. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. From Allah we come and to Allah we return. Meaning what? Allah has told us in this Quran, you're going to be tried. You're going to be tried. You're going to be tried with your death, the death of your loved ones, the death of people you know. You're going to lose your money. These things are going to happen. Have no doubt about it. So therefore, we can't be like the people of the Jahiliyyah. The people of the Jahiliyyah, when something happened to them, they did crazy things, like the non-Muslims. They did crazy things. One of the things that they would do is they would kill themselves and make suicide. So the religion of Islam came and said, killing yourself is from the major sins. And whoever kills himself by stabbing himself, he would do that in the fire forever. Anyone who throws himself off a mountain, he's going to do that forever. Anyone who takes poison, he's going to do that forever. Don't kill yourselves. Don't kill anyone else and don't kill yourselves. People in Jahiliyyah, if a musibah hit them, something big hit them, they would curse the time. Time in Arabic is a dahr. The Prophet told the people, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, لا تسبوا الدهر فإن الله هو الدهر يقلب الليل والنهار. When something happens to you, don't curse the time, because Allah is the time. He changes the night into the day and the day into the night. The kuffar of Quraysh, the Arabs at that time, if the man lost his arm, he will say, curse the time for what happened to my arm. Curse the time that my house got burned down. Islam said, no, the time didn't do that. The time on your hand, the watch, the time, that didn't do that. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who made the qadr. He's the one who decreed that. So when you curse the time, you are indirectly cursing Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's what they used to do in the times of Jahiliyyah. The times of Jahiliyyah, if a musibah happened, some musibah, the person will say, woe is me. Why me? Woe is me. Why didn't it happen to somebody else? Why? The Nabi told the people, don't do that. Don't scream like that. The women from Al-Jahiliyyah, when these things used to happen to them, they used to do 3 things that the Prophet freed himself from. And it's our responsibility to understand it and to tell our wives to be careful. He said, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, and it happened with the wife of one of the companions when she thought her husband was going to die. His name is Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, one of the prolific companions who knew the Quran and he had fiqh. He was dying. They thought he was dying. So his wife was there at his deathbed, she thought. And he lost consciousness, so she thought that he died. So she started screaming, going crazy. radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. The man didn't die, but he wasn't able to say anything because of his condition. He couldn't talk, but he heard what she was saying. After some time went by and he gathered his strength and he was able to talk, he said, I am free from the one who the Prophet is free from, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he told them, the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inni bari'un min al-haliqa was-saliqa was-shaqa. I'm free from these three people because they're doing what the people of Jahiliyyah used to do when the musibah came. I'm free of the lady who, when a musibah comes, someone dies, she loses a child, something happens, she cuts her hair. You see how my hair is? I didn't cut it today, but she cuts her hair bald, no hair. When she cuts her hair, it's a sign of her being sad. So just imagine the women that you know, has long hair, something happens, someone dies, she goes and shaves all her hair off in Jahiliyyah. When the people see her, it's a sign that that lady had good akhlaq. The Prophet said, I'm free of that. And we find today, maybe our wife, she won't cut all of her hair, but because of depression, because of being down, because of sorrow, some of them would do a drastic haircut. She has long hair, she'll cut it short because of the musibah. It's all the same. Now, I'm not saying if a woman wants to cut her hair short as a style just to do it, then there's no problem. But in the society that we live in, many women, Muslim women, kuffar women, whenever they're stressed out under pressure, the mind, that's how it works. You'll find the lady cutting off her hair. The Nabi said, I'm free from that. That's what the people of Jahiliyyah did. He said, I'm also free from the individual who screams out, the saliqa. They're just screaming, going crazy. And the third one is the shaqa. The shaqa is the lady who comes and she rips her clothes off like that. When something happens, she rips her clothes off. If you go to the YouTube, and I don't advise you to do this because of the graphic nature of the pictures, with all of that drama that's going on in Syria, may Allah help the Muslims in Syria, you can find some of the Syrian women, because this is part of the Arab culture today, Islam and the culture. You'll find the lady on the YouTube, just put Syrian women mourning. That's all you have to put, Syrian women mourning. Mourning, not the morning, M-O-U-R-I-N-G. One lady is slapping the other lady, she's slapping her back, she's slapping her back, she's slapping her back, because someone died. So they're just slapping each other back and forth. So the Prophet said, I'm free from that. These are from the actions of the people of the Jahiliyyah. When the catastrophe hits the Muslim, the musibah, the trial, when it hits the Muslim, he has to have patience. You guys are laughing, I'm telling you. When you see it, it's sad. The Nabi said, I'm free from it. The lady is ripping her thing off, and then they're just slapping each other back and forth. That's not going to bring the dead back. Not only that, but it's another mushkila that comes. Another mushkila. And this is important, akhi, ikhwani. One thing that is sad to see in our masajid of Ahlul Hadith. Ahlul Hadith, we don't fall into many of the innovations and shirk of some of these other masajid. But when people die from our community, when people die from back home, our relatives, a lot of times, Ahlul Hadith, we are bringing things in the masjid that are from what is munkar. So this thing about what we're mentioning, when the musibah happens, like death, we have to know the etiquette of al-Islam, the adab of al-Islam. The Prophet told the people, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, inna al-mayyit la yu'adhib bi buka al-hayy. The dead person will be punished because of the screaming of the living. A person who is dead, your relative who is dead, musibah, just say, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. The Nabi said, that dead person will be punished because of the screaming of the living. A person may say, but Abu Usamah, what about the ayat of the Quran where Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى? No one will be caused to carry the burden of someone else. If this person doesn't pray, Ahmed, he doesn't pray, that's not my problem. Allah doesn't hold me responsible for that Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's not my problem. I'm responsible for myself. And this is why we reject that concept of the Trinity. Isa ibn Maryam died for the sins of the, no, what, he got to die for the people's sins. So anyway, what about that hadith? That ayah said no one will be carrying someone else's burden. Why would the dead person be punished? Because of Jahiliyyah. In al-Jahiliyyah, the people used to tell the person, the father, before he died, he would tell his children and his women and all of the people who were connected to him, listen, when I die and I check out, I want you people to make a lot of noise and scream and throw dirt, slap each other, rip your clothes off, so that the community will know that you loved me. So it was just showing off. And they would carry on. Another reason, number two, the guy who died, why is he punished? He's punished because he didn't educate his family. He left them ignorant. So he's going to be responsible for what happens at his funeral. He's going to be, because he didn't educate them. So the point here, Ikhwani, is we are a group of people who our religion came and said to us, don't do things like these other people. You're going to have musibas. They're part of your life. There's a way of dealing with that. And we're going to come to some of those issues. Like the lady during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that lady was sitting at the grave on her knees and she was crying. She wasn't going crazy. She was crying, mourning the death of her husband, her mother, her father. She was crying, something natural. Islam allowed it. The Prophet came behind her and she didn't look to see who it was. The Prophet told that lady, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, isbari wahtasibi. Hey lady, have sabr, be patient with what happened, and you're going to get you a reward. The lady, without looking, in her state of being upset, she said, get out of here. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know my sorrow. Get away from me. The Prophet ﷺ just left and he walked away. The people came and said, hey lady, you said that to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was disturbed at what had happened. She became disturbed. She went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to apologize. She said, I didn't mean to say that, Ya Rasulullah. I didn't know it was you. I was mourning. He told her, Inna sabr inda sadmatul ula. The time to have patience. The best time to have patience is when you first hear of the problem. You heard someone died or some news. That's the time not to talk. That's the time to sit down and to get yourself together. Because if you move on that, you're going to say something that's wrong. You're going to do something that you'll regret. But before I move on to the next point, this incident with this woman is important because it shows, number one, it's permissible for women to be at the grave. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw that lady at the grave. Another very important point, those of you who want to be on the sunnah and you're giving dawah to your relatives and to the people, at the graveyard, there are a lot of innovations that take place with our relatives. A lot. They read the Quran, they read Yasin, they say La ilaha illallah. A lot of things that's not from our religion. At the graveyard, in the Asian community. A lot. You go to your relative's grave, to the funeral, there are a lot of evil things going on. I want to give dawah ilallah. I want to educate the people on that day. This thing with the Prophet and that lady goes to show it's not acceptable on the day of a funeral for you to be arguing with people. Prophet Muhammad understood that lady's condition. She's sad, she's mourning. When she said, get out of here, you don't know what I'm going through. The Nabi didn't say to her, that's kufr what you said? Do you know who you're talking? He understands her situation. He knows that if a person is extremely sad, they may say what they normally wouldn't say. If he's extremely tired, he's praying. The Prophet said, don't pray when you're tired, because one of you will go to make istighfar, to ask Allah to forgive you, but because you're tired, you ask Allah to punish you. When you're really tired, like you're falling asleep and you just talk kalam, gibberish. Person can be too happy. The man was traveling in the desert and he got off of his camel and his camel ran away with all of his food and all of his provisions. The man went to sleep thinking he's going to die because he's in the middle of the desert. The camel came back by itself. When he woke up, he saw it, he grabbed it very quickly by the reins and he said, "Oh Allah, you are my slave and I'm your Lord." He made a mistake. He meant to say, "Oh Allah, you're my Lord and I'm your slave. I thank you for what you just did." But the Prophet said, "Akhta'a min shiddat al-farah." He made a mistake because he was so happy. Allah, you are my slave and I'm your Lord. So it goes to show, again, what's the point? Extremes, extremes, extremes. If people have extreme emotions and they can't help it, someone dies, something happens, Al-Islam says, take it into consideration and take it easy. Which brings us to the next issue, and that is, why would Allah Azza wa Jal create us to be tried? What's the wisdom of that? Is it a case of just wasting time? Allah didn't have anything better to do? Hasha lillah. He said in the Quran, لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا لاتخذناه من عندنا إن كنا فاعلين. لاتخذناه من لدنا إن كنا فاعلين. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in this ayah, if I wanted to waste time and play around, hasha lillah, hypothetically, if I wanted, I wouldn't have played around with Bani Adam, giving them trials and tribulations and playing around with them. I wouldn't have wasted time with Bani Adam. He said, I would have played around with something that's close to me. The meaning of that is clear. If Allah wanted to waste time, He could have played around and wasted time with, I don't say the planets, with the universes that the people don't even know about. If He wanted to, but He doesn't play around. That's the meaning of the ayah. So the fact that we are tried, it is not a sign that Allah Azza wa Jalla is playing around. There's some wisdom in it. If you look at that Quran, and you look at some of the stories of the Anbiya of the Quran and the Rasul, like Ayub, those people from the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal, like Yusuf, like Yaqub, like Ibrahim. If you look at all of those stories, it becomes quite apparent that there's some benefit in that issue. A lot of benefit that we're going to come to, inshallah ta'ala. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He doesn't play around. One of the benefits of trials and tribulations, and there are many, and this helps us to have sabr with them. One of the benefits is that Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran in Surah Muhammad, ayat number 31, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ حَتَّى نَعْلَمَ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ. We will test you people until we know and we're able to distinguish, until it's proven who are the real mujahideen and who are the real people who make and have a sabr. Many people say, I believe, I believe, I believe. But when it comes crunch time, do you see the iman on that individual? So Allah Azza wa Jal made the distinction between the real people of iman and the munafiqeen. The munafiq is the hypocrite. The meaning of the munafiq is, in his heart is kufr, but outside he shows al-Islam. The kafir, in his heart is kufr, and on the outside he shows kufr. He wants to let you know, what's in my heart I'm going to show you on my limbs. The Muslim, in his heart is al-Iman, in his heart is al-Iman, and on his actions, on his limbs, there is al-Islam and al-Iman. But the munafiq, he's a trouble, he's a problem. He's pretending to be a Muslim. And really, ikhwani, the munafiq, he's not necessarily against the Muslims or against the kuffar. He's wherever there's benefit. Allah described them in the Quran, He said about them, مُذَبْذَبِينَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ لَا إِلَهَ أُولَئِ وَلَا إِلَهَ أُولَئِ. The munafiqeen, they bounce around. They're not with the Muslims and they're not with the kuffar. Although they're kuffar, they are going to go wherever there's benefit. If they can get money, prestige with the Muslims, they're going to be there, acting as if they're Muslims. If the Muslims go for war and they get defeated and people are killed, they're going to be with the kuffar, mocking the Muslims and making jokes and fun and saying things that are negative. So the point here is, one of the benefits, ikhwani, of trials and tribulations is, if a person says that he's going to believe, he is a believer, then how is that known that he really is committed and he's really believing? He's going to show that when trials and tribulations come to him. Prophet Muhammad told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inna ahadakum yuftanu fi waladihi wa malihi wa ahlihi. One of you, your fitna is in your children. You have to deal with children who are disobedient. They don't necessarily only have to be disobedient. You have a daughter, you have to marry her. It's a fitna. You have to deal with that. Taking care of them as they grow and they develop. You're responsible for educating them. You'll be tried in your children. You'll be tried in your money. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. You don't have enough. You have some money this week, next week you don't have money. Creditors, people who you owe money to, the people who you owe debt to, they're looking for you. It's a fitna. And you'll also be tried with your wife. Individual has a wife. It was an arranged marriage. Well, it wasn't an arranged marriage, but she's the wrong person. She's like the nar on him. It's difficult. And vice versa. The lady has a husband who's like that as well. All of those are trials and tribulations. The one who has iman, when he's dealing with a wife who's a problem, he's dealing with a mother-in-law who's a problem, he knows that he can't deal with the situation any way he wants to. He has to deal with the situation based upon the deen. They're doing wrong, I can't do wrong to push back their wrong, because two wrongs don't make a right. These trials and tribulations, that's one of the main reasons why they come. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do the people think they're going to say, we believe, and they're going to be left like that, and they not be tried? No, they're going to be tried. And some of the people of the past were tried to the point, حَتَّى قَالَ الرَّسُولُ. The Rasul said, مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. It was so much trial and tribulation, they said, when is the help of Allah going to come? Allah said, verily, Allah's help is close. It's always the case. So one of the benefits of the trials and tribulations is that the trials and tribulations, they sift out the people. They sift out the real believers from the not real believers. And even the believers themselves, they put them on different levels. The Jannah has different levels, 7 levels. Everyone is not going to be on the same level. The one who exerted himself and he showed a lot of sabr and he showed that he was a believer, he is going to be in a higher place than the one who had weak iman. When things used to happen, he didn't meet the challenge. Another benefit, another really important benefit of trials and tribulations is that the trial and the tribulation, it is a kafara. It's a kafara. It's a way to get your sins off of you. The Nabi said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if Allah takes someone away who you love and you have sabr, he said, I guarantee you go to Jannah. Any woman who loses 3 children, she'll go to Jannah. A lady said, Ya Rasulullah, what about the woman who lost 2? I lost 2. He said, if you lose 2 and you're patient, you'll go to Jannah. One lady said, I lost 1. What about that? He said, and 1 as well. That's a big fitna. If you lost your child, it's a big fitna. The Nabi said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah said, anyone who I take his eyesight and I make him blind and he has sabr, he's going to go to Jannah. Our Shaykh the other day, who was stabbed 3 times in the back with a big machete, went in his back, came out of the front. He fell down dead in the street, not far from his house. When we look at that situation, that is a big musibah in our community. It's a musibah for their family. It's a musibah for that man. But Allah knows best. When we look at the story of Ibrahim, the story of Adam's 2 sons, one of the sons said to the other one, لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ. He became jealous. He said, I'm going to kill you. The good brother said that Allah, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Why are you going to kill me? Allah accepted from me because I did the right thing. I have taqwa. إِن بَسَطْتَ إِلَيَّ يَدَكَ لِتَقْتُلُنِي مَا أَنَا بِبَاسَةٍ يَدِي إِلَيَّ لِأَقْتُلَكَ إِنِّي أَخَافَ اللَّهَ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ وَإِنِّي أُرِيدُ أَن تَبُوءَ بِإِثْمِي وَإِثْمَكَ وَتَكُونَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ النَّارِ وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الظَّالِمِينَ. The Shaykh was killed. He was killed. When we look at it, we say it's a big musibah. But this is one of the ways that he could get kafara. He can go to Jannah without any sins. How was that? Adam's son said to the other one, I'm going to kill you. He said, hey, if you reach your hand out to kill me, I'm not going to reach my hand out to kill you. 2 rights don't make a wrong. If you kill me, then you're going to take my sins and your sins, because you took my life. And once you took my life, You prevented me from making tawbah. You prevented me from continuing to do good deeds. You were the one who's responsible for that. So as a result of that, all of what I did before, you have to carry that on your shoulders. So that musibah, the Shaykh is my uncle, it's my father. It is a big musibah. It was an assault on one of the institutions of Islam. We gave a khutbah in this masjid about the institution, about respecting the elders. That is an Islamic, not principle, that's an institution in Islam. That elders have a special position, just like ulama have a special position. Your mother and father have a special position. The Rasul has a special position. So the point here is, if the individual, if he knew and he looked at these things in this type of way, he'll have the ability, inshallah, to put his case in perspective. Which brings us now, inshallah, azawajal, to the next issue, like those companions. The companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, including Rasulullah, they went through a lot of trials and tribulations. It's just not enough time to talk about them. Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, did you ever see a day worse than the day of Uhud? At the battle of Uhud, they hit you in your mouth and knock your tooth out. In the battle of Uhud, they hit you in your head and split your head. And you were bleeding from your head. In the battle of Uhud, Mus'ab ibn Umair was killed. Your uncle Hamza was killed. Not only was he killed, but they cut him open and they mutilated him and took his intestines out and threw it on the floor and cut his ears off, cut his mouth open like this. When the Nabi saw it, he was shocked. He was shocked. That's his uncle, and they did that to him. How they hated him in Islam, that they would do this to an individual. He told his companions, La tumathilu. Don't mutilate people when we do. This is not, there's some rules of war. Don't mutilate. The dead person has haqq, even if he's a kafir. In Afghanistan, a year ago or something like that, the American soldiers killed some of the Taliban, and they were urinating on them. They were urinating on the bodies, laughing at it, laughing. And then that same platoon took a puppy, and while they were driving, they threw the puppy over, and the puppy started screaming the way dogs scream. The American public made a big deal about the puppy, and they didn't make a big deal about you're urinating on human beings. The corpse in Islam has a haqq. Even with Muslims, you can't go and start cutting him up. Just look at those pictures in Syria. I don't advise you to do it because it's graphic. Go and see what those people are doing to the dead and the living. Not human beings. Wahshiyun. Ala kullin. The point is that those companions, they went through a lot. Ya Rasulullah, did you see any day worse than that day? You would think he would say, no, that's the worst day. But he didn't say that. He said, yes, I saw worse than that day. He said, the toughest day that I saw in giving da'wah to Allah is when I left my people in Mecca and I went to the people of Ta'if. That's in the southern part of Mecca, Arabia. And it's about 200, 300 kilometers from Mecca. Long distance. He went by himself. He went and he wanted to call those people to La ilaha illallah, to the Sunnah. He didn't say anything other than that. Hey people, worship Allah alone. You don't have any ilah, worthy of worship except Him. What did the people do? The well-known story. They sent their kids and the ignoramuses from amongst them. They went and they threw rocks at the Nabi Sallallahu until blood came out, and he walked away. He walked away. When he got out, Jibril came to him in that situation, and he said, Ya Muhammad, you see this cloud that was walking with you? It was shading you from the shade. Allah is protecting you. Allah said in the Quran, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from the people. But Allah allowed him to get hit. It's a fitna. Allah could have caused those rocks to pass him by, and if he was created from the nur of Allah, those rocks would have went through him. But he's a human being, and if something hits him, it's going to make a wound. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, look, you see those two angels that came down? He said they never came down to the earth ever before today. They came down here for you. If you want, Just give me the order. I'm going to tell them, and they're going to take the 2 mountains that are on either side of this village, and they're going to smash these people who did this to you. It's up to you. All you have to do is say it. If the Prophet said, okay, smash him, he would have been in his haqq, because look what they did to him. He's a Rasul, he's a Nabi. Does anybody here know who's going to get the worst punishment, Yawm al-Qiyamah? Anybody here know? Who? He says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, inna ashadd an-nas adhabin yawm al-qiyamah rajul qatalahu nabiyyun aw qatala an-nabiyya. The man who will get the worst punishment, yawm al-qiyamah, is a man who he killed a nabi or the nabi killed him. Either way, because he's fighting against the nabi. It's the worst person to fight against. Can't fight against the nabi. Can't fight against your mother, can't fight against your father, can't fight against your husband, can't fight against your teacher, can't fight against the imam as the hafiz of the Quran, can't fight against certain people. So as a result of that, if the Nabi said smash him, it would have been his haqq. But he said no, don't smash him. He made a dua. He said, I hope and I pray to Allah that Allah brings from the children of these people, make them into Muslims. And that's what happened. And that's the rahmah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that whole story and that incident is just not a story. It goes to show the trials and the tribulations that the Nabi went through. Sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. Those ayats that the Allah Ta'ala, alladhina ukhriju min diyarihim an yaqulu rabbuna Allah, alladhina ukhriju min diyarihim bighayri haqqin an yaqulu rabbuna Allah. Those people, they were kicked out of their houses. They were kicked out of Mecca for no other reason other than saying, Allah is our Lord. But they had to go through that stuff. They had to go through that. In Mecca, hostile environment, it was difficult. Allah could have just made the religion, established it. People were getting killed. People were getting punished. People were getting persecuted. Some of them, if they went outside, every day they went outside, they know this could be the last day I'm walking on the face of the earth. Kuffar Quraysh going to get me and that's it. So we look at our situation. Shaykh Salim, who was killed last week. That was common in Mecca. That thing that happened to him was common. As common as a bird coming here and flying away. So it goes to show we have a lot to be thankful for, and also goes to show the position of those companions, radiyallahu anhum, because if those trials and tribulations didn't come to them, how are we going to know that they're real companions? We say radiyallahu anhum because when Allah tried them, they remained steadfast. They remained steadfast. Now we come, ikhwani, to the last 2 points that I want to mention, and that is, as we already mentioned, concerning the trials and tribulations, our religion taught us a minhaj, or a methodology about everything. As you're sitting there, everybody here knows our religion taught us how to relieve ourselves when we go to the toilet, akramakumullah. How to get married, how to get divorced, how the man should eat. Our religion taught us how to come in the masjid, how to put your clothes on, how to take your clothes off, how to go to bed. All of these things have been taught to us. But unfortunately, we're living in a time where there's not a lot of knowledge, where Islam has faded away, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Islam is going to fade away, the way the new thobe fades away, until the point that people are not going to know the salat, they're not going to know the siyam, they're not going to know sadaqah, they're not going to know hajj. And in one day, in one night, all of the Quran is going to be taken up. Some of the ulama, they consider the basmala. The basmala is when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Some of the ulama of the Quran say the basmala is an ayat of every surah except one, Surah At-Tawbah, Al-Bara'ah. Everybody knows Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The time is going to come where the Muslims won't know Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There's a surah in the Quran, an ayat called Sad, the letter Sad, Hamim, Alif Lam Mim, Alif Lam Ra, Qaf. Muslims won't even know that little ayat, Qaf, Sad, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Islam is going to disappear and fade away. The Nabi came to Jibril sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said to him, Jibril came to the Nabi, he said, Ya Muhammad, tell me, what is Islam? And then he said, what is Iman? And what is Al-Ihsan? When he asked him about Al-Islam, he told him the 5 pillars of Islam. When he asked him about Iman, he told him the 6 pillars of Al-Iman, faith. When he asked about Ihsan, he told him. He asked him about some of the signs of the hour, he told him. Now listen, if we go home in this audience, us, I go to my wife and you go to your wife. I go to my mother, you go to your mother. My father, your father. I go to my children, you go to your children. And you ask your child, what is Islam? A lot of our relatives won't know the answer that the Prophet gave to Jibril. Al-Islam an tu'mina billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasulihi wal yawm al-akhir wa an tu'mina bil qadr khayrihi wa sharrihi. He gave that. Believe in Allah, believe in the books, believe in the angels, believe in the prophets, the messengers, believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah, believe in the Qadr. I'm going to go to my house and say to my wife, what is Islam? Many of them won't know. My children won't know. Because we're living at that time where Islam is fading away like the thobe. And some people who do know, the minority, they're going to give the tartib different way. They say al-Islam is al-Hajj, fasting, zakat, because the tartib is important. The tartib, or the order that was given. So the point that we're trying to make here, Ikhwani Fillah, is that this is the time of trials and tribulations. This is the time of trials and tribulations. And from the wisdom of Allah, His hikmah, is that He's going to allow the Dajjal, which is the biggest fitna, He's going to allow him to come out at a time when Muslims don't know their religion. Muslims don't know. For an example, we all have to know that you can't see Allah in this dunya. لَن تُدْرِكُهُ الْأَبْصَارِ وَهُوَ يُدْرِكُ الْأَبْصَارِ. No eyes can see Allah in this dunya. People will be able to see Allah in the hereafter. So when Dajjal comes, he's going to say, big fitna, he's going to say, the Nabi said there's no fitna since Allah created Adam to Yawm al-Qiyamah bigger than the Dajjal. When he comes out, he's going to tell the people, I'm your Lord, I'm Allah. I make it rain, I give you money, I do this, I do that. The Muslim who knows his religion, just the basics, he says, you can't be Allah because I can't see Allah in this dunya. As long as I can see you, I know that you're lying. But people won't say that. People will see what he does. Made it rain just like that, and it was hot. The cow, he made it fat, it became pregnant, gave her a lot of kids, had a lot of milk. He killed the man, brought the man back to life by Allah's permission. So concerning the whole issue of al-fitan, trials and tribulations, the responsibility that we have is to go back, inshallah, and try to read about these things and prepare ourselves to be able to deal with the trials and tribulations as they come with knowledge. Last point I want to make is, a man came when he heard about the times of trials and tribulations, fitna. The brother kills his own brother and he doesn't know why. The man said, what do you advise me to do if I'm doing that time, Ya Rasulullah, when there's a lot of killing, indiscriminate, rampant killing? What do you advise me to do? He told the man, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, hold back your hand. Don't get involved. Be like the son of Adam that was murdered, the one who was killed unjustly. Go and break your sword off. Break your sword off. Your relatives fighting, don't get involved. Don't give your 2 cents and have something to say for or against, unless you're trying to make peace and unless you're trying to be the one who's bringing the deen and the haqq. As for us against them and everyone is being ignorant and un-Islamic, then that is a problem. So the Nabi used to look at his companions. You're sitting there. He got on his knees and he started looking like that. They said, what are you looking at, Ya Rasulullah? He said, Wallahi, I see the fitan, the trials and tribulations. They're coming down on your rooftops the way the rain comes down on the rooftop. The people look back. They didn't see that. They didn't see anything. But what he was talking about were the things that were going to happen during this time, in the future. Things that they couldn't see. Allah revealed to him at that particular moment. So although we say to our brothers in this city and elsewhere, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam doesn't know the ilm al-ghayb. He didn't know the ilm al-ghayb. No one knows the ilm al-ghayb except Allah. But Allah Azza wa Jal sometimes will allow different individuals from His servants, whether they are prophets or messengers, whether they are the angels, even regular people. Allah would allow people to see aspects of the ghayb according to what He deems and according to what He has determined. So learn about the fitan, inshallah, and the fitan that we do have, the trials and tribulations in our children, and our wealth, and our health, our mental issues. Find out what the religion is telling you and telling us is our responsibility in that regard. And at the top of the list is having sabr and not dealing with the issues the way the kuffar of Quraysh, who had no religion and no guidance, the way they used to deal with it. We're going to end here, and we thank the brothers for giving us this opportunity to come to you, brothers, to make this remembrance for myself as well as for you. And our tawfiq and our success is only from and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay. Jazakallah, Shaykh. Any question and answers from the floor?
Brother wants to know, is it true that as time continues to go forward, Yawm al-Qiyamah becomes closer to us? Is it true that it gets worse and there's going to be more fitna? Allahumma na'am, that's true. Anas ibn Malik was approached by some of the tabi'een who were complaining about the fitna of Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, who was an oppressive leader. So they came to complain to the companion Anas. This man is doing this, this man is doing that, this man is doing this, this man is doing that. Anas ibn Malik, the scholar, told those people, I heard the Prophet say, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ma min amin illa walladhi ba'duhu sharrun minhu fasbiru wahtasibu. The Nabi said, there is not a year except that the year that comes after it is worse than the one that went before it. So 2014, Gregorian calendar, 1435 in Islamic Hijri. This is the worst year known to Bani Adam right now. The time that we're living is the worst time known. Because every year that went by got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until you'll find on the earth there won't be anyone who said Allah, Allah. And then that's when Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be established. So it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. He told us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna min ashrat as-sa'a al-harj, or al-haraj. From the signs of the hour is al-haraj. They said, what is al-haraj, ya Rasulullah? He said, indiscriminate killing. A man will be killed. The murderer doesn't know why did you kill him. And the one who was murdered doesn't know why he was killed. Shaykh Salim, why was he killed? Someone came behind him and killed him. Did he owe someone money? I doubt it. I doubt it. Did he want to marry some lady that someone else wanted to marry, so he became jealous? I doubt it. He doesn't know why he was killed. And the young person, like in America, the gangs, in London, people are stabbing each other. If you ask him, why did you do that? Why did you do that? He doesn't know why. So now, my akhi, this is the worst time, and every year will get worse and worse. May Allah protect us from the fitan and the evil.
What are the best du'as to make in the times of trials?
From the best dua is what we do every single day when we are praying, and that's the closest that the slave is to Allah, and that's when his dua is most accepted. So the Nabi told the people, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِذَا تَشَهَّدَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ أَرْبَعٍ. If one of you is praying and you do the tashahhud, التَّحِيَّاتُ لِلَّهِ وَالصَّلَوَاتُ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ, he said, if you do that, then make sure you make the dua where you seek refuge in Allah from 4 things. And the 4 things, you seek refuge in Allah from the fitna of the life and the death. You seek refuge in Allah from the fitna of a dajjal. You seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal from the adhab of the qabr. That's from the best dua that a person can make, because he's going to pray at least 5 times a day, not including the other prayers. And inside of the salat is when the dua is most apt to be accepted. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم أقرب ما يكون العبد إلى ربه وهو ساجد. The closest the slave is to his Lord is when he's in sajda. So the salat is the best time to make the salat, to make dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So that's one of the best dua that a person can possibly make. It doesn't come to my mind any particular dua other than that, but I'm sure there has to be something. There has to be something. So Allah is a'la and a'lam.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay. Unless I misunderstood. You said that certain individuals get glimpses of the ghaib through Allah Ta'ala's permission, of course. Okay? Now there's people out there, as you know, in our communities, who advertise the fact that they obviously able to tell the future, and that they know the ghaib, and that, especially Sufi sects and things like that, they say we see the ghaib and this. Have you not just opened up a window of opportunity for them to reference you on that by stating that with Allah Ta'ala's permission, certain people will get extract of the unseen? Do you see where I'm coming from?
So the brother wants to know, I mentioned that some people, from the regular people, are sometimes giving glimpses into certain aspects of the ghaib. So if you say something like that, and some of the people from this ummah that go overboard in this issue, and they claim that the Malvi Sahib, the Imam, they know the ilm al-ghaib, can't they take what I'm saying as a dalil, and am I not supporting what they're saying? When I said that certain people have the ability to see the ghaib, it is constricted. It's not open-ended. It's restricted. And the fact that this has happened, we have to accept it. So first, let it make very clear, no one knows the unseen except Allah. قُلْ لَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْغَيْبِ قُلْ لَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ الْغَيْبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. No one in the heavens and earth, or the earth, knows the unseen except Allah. No one. Not even Prophet Muhammad. He doesn't know. No one. But, as I told you, the Nabi saw that thing down there. So Allah allowed him to see that aspect of it. He's a Rasul, he's a Nabi. When Jibril came to him and said, in that hadith, when is Yawm al-Qiyamah? He said, the one who was asking knows just as much as the one who's being asked. You and me are equal. We don't know Yawm al-Qiyamah. What are some of the signs? He told him some of the signs, which was from the unseen. The young person will give, the slave girl will give birth to the mother, meaning children will disrespect their parents. The Arabs will compete in building lofty structures, like in Arabia right now. How did he know that? Allah allowed him to see that. The Nabi told us that Yawm al-Qiyamah, in another hadith, it's going to be on Friday. He know that aspect of it. As for the regular person being given the opportunity to see aspects of the unseen, the meaning that I was talking about, I'm not talking about hocus pocus, crystal ball, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that prophecy and nabuwah, prophecy has been raised up. It was 46 branches. All of it has been raised up. There only remains one branch of prophecy, and that is a ru'ya as-salihah, a good dream that a person may see. He doesn't have to see the good dream. He makes istikhara. Something comes to him in his dream, and he's informed about something that he didn't know about that. Doesn't mean he has to wait to see in a dream. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that at all. And his ability to see that thing, it came from Allah. And that thing that he saw, he didn't see every aspect of that particular thing. He saw just a fraction of the reality of it. So when these people come and they claim that they know the unseen, some of them do. Some of them know the unseen. How? They're working with the jinn. So the jinn told them, this thing is coming from over here and he's going to, that used to happen during the time of Quraysh. And it still happens now. Surah Jinn was revealed for that reason. The man will hook up with the jinn and the jinn will tell him, so-and-so is going to die, that caravan is going to come to Mecca on this day, and in that caravan is this, that. He's a soothsayer. So he's dealing in black magic. He goes to the people and he tells them, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. He tells 100 things, 99 are lies, and one is true. And the people hold on to that one true thing and don't look at all of the lies. Come on, if someone knew the unseen, especially some of these religious people in the masjid, you know, who want money. If they really knew the unseen, they would go and play the lottery. And they would tell the lottery, look, the lottery was $270 million in America. He play that lottery, he get rich. He doesn't know the unseen. So that's what I meant by what I was saying. No one has the ability to know the unseen open-ended. Itlaqan, no. Allah will allow an individual to see certain things, whether it's from the prophets or the angels or the regular human being. And Allah knows best. So I in no way am saying what they're saying, that we know the unseen. No one knows the unseen. But Allah Azza wa Jalla can give you some of it. The man his wife is pregnant. The wife is pregnant. The ayah said, no one knows what's in the womb except Allah. Only Allah knows what's in the womb. We go to the hospital, they tell us you're going to have a baby boy. It's going to rain tomorrow. The ayah said, no one knows where the rain is going to come down. They said today, the forecast is going to be rainy today. That's what happened. But sometimes they're wrong. Baby boy, it's a girl. But will he come out alive? No, you don't know if he's going to come out alive. They said it's going to rain. It didn't rain. It snowed. The hail came down. So they're not always right. But Allah gave people those certain isharat, signs, that they can know some of these things. Bi-idhnillah.
During a point when somebody loses somebody in their family and the people are wailing and you tell them not to do so, will the deceased person still be punished because of those people's wailing?
Here in this case, the deceased is not responsible for that. If the deceased taught his family not to wail and not to do these things, and he encouraged them to pray and to practice their religion and to know their religion, and the people went against that from those who were left behind, then he did his job. And the ayat is applicable to him. He won't be made accountable for the burden of anyone else because he did his job. وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَى الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينِ. It's the job of the messenger just to explain. It was his job to explain. He can't force them to do anything. So in this case, the dead is not responsible at all.
Okay. Any other questions?
What are the ways in which you can increase the chances of your supplications to be accepted?
How do you make your supplication accepted? What are some of the ways, some of the things that you can do? That in itself is a good class by itself because there are a lot of adab. You want to get your supplication accepted. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, ادعوا ربكم تضرعا وخفية إنه لا يحب المعتدين. When you make dua to your Lord, make dua in a humble and quiet tone because Allah doesn't like those who go over bounds and screaming out and going loud in their dhikr. So when a person is making dua to Allah, he should be in a position of humility. That's one thing. The importance of raising your hands. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Inna Allaha hayy, kareem, يستحي يرفع إليه العبد يديه فيردهما صفرا خائبتين. Allah is shy and Allah is generous. He is shy for his slave to make dua with his hands open, and Allah doesn't give him what he's asking for. So one of the best ways to get your dua accepted is to raise your hand. And if there was a big problem, like in the Battle of Badr, it's a big problem. The Muslims were only 300, the Kuffar over 1,000. They have all those weapons, and the Muslims were weak. We needed help. So the Nabi put his hands all the way up like this, making dua, and his thing fell off, and they could see the white from his armpits. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So to show, person make mubalagha, something is happening, he puts his arm up even more, asking Allah, Ya Allah, and so forth and so on. From the best ways of making dua is to use the dua of the Quran. The best speech is the speech of Allah. The best guidance is the guidance of the Nabi. Learn those dua. Sayyid al-istighfar. There's a dua of istighfar better than everything else. You have your own dua, but this one is the best one. If you want it to be answered, then do that one. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika. That's the best one to do. Also, it's important, akhi, to abandon and avoid haram. Do the things that Allah told you to do, because as a parent, if my son who's your age is giving me a hard time, or he's giving my wife a hard time in my absence, and then I come home and he's saying to me, Abby, can you give me some trainers? Abby, can you buy me some trainers? Can you buy me this? I say, man, you're giving your mother a hard time and you want me to buy you some trainers? You don't deserve it. You have to work for those trainers. Same thing as slaves. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثُلُ الْأَعْلَى. Same thing with Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal told us to pray, told us to fast, told us to wear hijab, told us to do this, told us that, and we don't do it, and then we go knocking on his door. Like that man who traveled, and his hair was disheveled, and his clothes were dirty, and he raised his hands, and he said, Ya Rab, Ya Rab. The Prophet said, وَمَطْعَمُهُ حَرَامٌ وَمَشْرَبُهُ حَرَامٌ وَمَلْبَسُهُ حَرَامٌ وَغُذِيَ بِالْحَرَامِ فَإِنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. Ya Rab, Ya Rab, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. His food is haram. He drinks khamr. He doesn't eat halal. Smoking weed. He took the money of the orphan back at home. He changed the land, the plot. He changed it. And he got money for that. It's the money of his brothers, the money of his nephew, his niece. He took that money and he's eating with that money. And he's making dua. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. So the Nabi, and I finish your question with that. He said to the young man like yourself, Abdullah ibn Abbas was about 16 years old. He said, hey, young man, I'm going to teach you some words. Ihfidillah yahfidhak. Ihfidillah tajiduhu amamik. Aw tujahik. Remember Allah, Allah will remember you. Remember Allah, and you'll find Allah in front of you. Meaning, when you do the right thing and you need Allah, Allah is there for you. Allah will become the hand that He strikes. Allah becomes the feet by which He walks, the eyes by which He sees, the ears by which He hears, because He's doing His part. So Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to do what He promised. Al-jaza min jins al-amal. Kama taf'alun yuf'alu bina. Okay.
Is it permissible for women to visit the graves, i.e. the deceased relative, mother or father, in an attempt to seek peace and make dua for the deceased?
This is issue of ikhtilaf between the scholars. I'm of the opinion that it is permissible because of the hadith that I mentioned where the lady was at the grave. And also because Aisha radiallahu anha, she followed the Prophet ﷺ to the grave. He went inside of the grave and she went all the way to the grave. And he found out she was there and he said it was okay. And because of the general hadith, in Sahih al-Bukhari, كنت قد نهيتكم عن زيارة القبور فزوروها فإنها تذكركم بالآخرة. I used to, when we were in Mecca, I prohibited you and I said, don't go to the graves because you were new to Islam. You did crazy things of Jahiliyyah. He said, now that we're in Medina and Iman is in our hearts and we know Allah, he said, generally, visit the grave. And that's a general statement to the men and the women, because the graves will remind you of the hereafter. But there is an authentic hadith that's been collected by Imam Abu Dawood and other than him, that the Nabi said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, la'an Allah zuwarat al-qubur. La'an Allahu zuwarat al-qubur. May Allah curse the women who visit the graves. So some scholars took that to mean women can't go to the grave. But other scholars said no, something is going on here linguistically. Zawarat is on the wazn fa'al. Wallahu fa'alun lima yurid. Sira al-mubalagha. Something that's being done a lot. Al-Ghaffar. He gives a lot of forgiveness. So Allah cursed those women who always go to the grave. They're always at the grave, selling people sweets and biscuits and bird seeds and asking people for money. As for the regular lady who goes to the grave every so often to make dua for her deceased relatives and also to be reminded of the hereafter, فَلَا بَأْس. No problem with that, inshallah.